Okay guys, here's the how-to on assembling this shock. Once again, this is a 2001 KX252 stroke, a KYB shock. We're going to get some shock fluid. First thing I'm going to do is fill up this bladder reservoir, and you're going to fill it up high enough to where the bladder will overflow when you install it. So I've got a brand new bladder here. It's my old bladder. Just going to pull that off. Pop this new one on. Give me a second to get my tool off. Okay, got my tool off. I'm putting my bladder in. Now you want this to be filled up enough to where it will overflow when you install the bladder. Just like that. That's how you know there's not going to be any air in there. So you want to push this down far enough to get your circlip in. Okay, now I'm going to put the valve core back in that I took out when I disassembled it. And I'm going to pressurize this bladder with about 40 pounds, and I can just use regular air because I'm going to be taking it back out and putting nitrogen in it, and air is 70% nitrogen anyway, so no reason to hook my nitrogen up for this. I'm just using a small fork pump. It's just handy and convenient. So I'm going to pump about 40 pounds into this bladder. That's going to give it enough to seat safely against the circlip. I'm going to fill this up almost to the top. There, I'm just about, probably about that far from the top. And I'm just going to insert this down in there. Make sure all this stuff is scooted to the top where you're just inserting the valving. That's normal. The fluid should be going through just like that. It's going to overflow your excess. Now this is super important. You're going to want to stroke this several times and bleed it until you don't see air anymore. But whenever you come up, you can't go up too high or you'll suck air back down through those holes. So I like to come up slow, push down pretty hard. My fluid's right at the top. You do this a while. You can even let it sit a little while if you want. Just make sure. You can take a screwdriver, tap on the body down here. Sometimes you'll see some air bubbles come up. You want to make sure all that air is out of there. Okay, whenever you're pretty sure that all that air is out of there, if you let it set for a while, we'll come back and we'll push this body down in there. Okay, I'm going to push this body down here, get it to where it's going in. Now, once you get it so far, it's not going to want to go. because you've got pressure on it from the bladder. So if you have a second person, it makes it a heck of a lot easier if you can have somebody depress this valve core while you press down on this at the same time. So you put the pressure on the bladder without getting any air space in there, and that'll let this go down. I can usually do it by myself. It's a little harder. Okay, was able to get it. I'm gonna take my clean circlip. What you're gonna do, put your circlip down in here. Some shocks have two. Most of them will only have one. This is super important that this is in its groove good. There we go. Okay. Now I can let the air back out of this and actually put nitrogen in it. Okay. Screw on my Race Tech nitrogen filling kit. Screwing this on. This top knob will depress the needle. My valve's open. I'm going to slowly open the valve on the tank, very slowly. Make sure everything seats good. There's only about 30 or 40 pounds there. This calls for about 180. We've got a little too much in there. Okay, that's about where I want it. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. We got about 180 pounds in it. I'm gonna loosen up this top valve so it takes pressure off the Schrader needle. And now before I take it off, I'm gonna have to bleed it off right here. Now I can loosen this up and remove it. Now you can kind of push down on the shaft and make sure it's going to work right. It should be very hard to press down, but it should go down. And that's exactly how it's supposed to work. So now all I have to do is tap my cap back on. A little easier said than done, huh? And voila, guys. Now I can swap swap it around the vise here. Start getting my spring and stuff put on. Drop the spring on. Wiping down my spring seat and stuff. Spring seat opening, this will slide on so it sits like that. If I have the cup up above it first. Make sure your cup's up above it, slide it on, it should sit just like that. It's not going to have any pressure on it, obviously. So now I'm just holding the spring up kind of tight against it, and I'm tightening down this nut on the bottom just to put a little pressure on it. Now, the smart thing to do, if you were keeping the same spring and the same rider and everything, would been to mark on your threads or measure the spring to see where your preload was set, where your sag was set. Sorry. Tighten this down to exactly where it was. Obviously, you want to remeasure and double check when you get it on the bike. Okay. Tighten down this nut. I don't really need to tighten this down much, because I'm going to probably be adjusting it when I put it on the bike. I'm going to snug it up. And then I'm just going to go ahead and take my screwdriver and set this back. You need to set it back to where you had it before, or the new settings or whatever. It's easier to do it now so I don't forget. Usually 10 and 12 are a good starting point. 12 and 14, 8 and 10, somewhere around there. Cool. And guys, that's about it for this shock. It's got a nice fresh bumper now, a new seal head, and it's ready to go back on the bike and get tuned in. So thanks for being a supporter. If you like these videos, you can head on over to my Patreon account. You can support me there. You get my personal cell number. Get at me anytime you got questions on this stuff. I'm making myself available as much as I possibly can. The more you guys can help me out, the more videos I can make. I just really appreciate it. So thanks for watching.